apart, the very first song I wrote was called "It's All Right with Me," and we did that as one of the songs on the Heart's Beat competition, which was the contest that we won that led to our first Decca recording contract. And Dick Rowe knocked on the door and said, I'd like to sign you for a single thing, which was wonderful. But then we were going to record "Summertime." I mean, I hadn't thought of writing anything, and neither had Chris White, actually. But the guy that we got to produce this for the first session said, you could always write something yourselves. And that's all he said. And everybody forgot about it. And I went away and wrote "She's Not There." And with the naivety and ignorance of youth that you only have once, because you don't know any of the pitfalls that can happen, I thought, I can write a song and it'll be a hit. And we'll record it and it'll sound great. Colin will sound great singing it. We banged some lovely harmonies on it, and unbelievably, it all happened. And I wasn't surprised. We were knocked out, but it became the first record after the Beatles to get to #1 in the States with a self-written song. Yeah. We actually even made the 9 o'clock news. Wow. I always remember phoning home, which was a big deal in those days, from America. And my mother said, "You've just been on the 9 o'clock news." And I thought, "Oh my God, what have I done?" But she said, "No, you're okay." It's and she said that they related the story to that, and that was #1 in Cashbox and #2, I think, in Billboard. But there you go. So it was a dream start. Yeah. I mean, I was 18 when I wrote it, and the record came out. I was 19 when it reached #1 in the States, and so was Colin. We're just 10 days apart in terms of birthdays. So it was an absolute dream. But very soon reality came in when things weren't so successful. I mean, although our second record in the States was a top 5 record as well. That was Tell Her No, which I think we had absolutely the wrong record out over here. But we were badly managed in many ways, and in the UK. But anyway, that's another story entirely.
Indeed. Not talking about management, but the producers that you worked with. I heard a story you said once where you weren't even allowed in the mix of it. You weren't allowed to see what was going on or hear what was going on. So at times you were recording something you thought sounded fantastic, and you'd come back and it'd sound completely different.
Absolutely. We would often do demos ourselves, and they were rough, but they had all the essentials of balance and often some very rich harmonies. And all those rich harmonies got thrown away on the final production. We sang them, but instead of being equal, they were sort of, certain lines were pushed well into the background, and it only sounded like there was some scrappy stuff going on, and it was driving us crazy. And that's why we recorded Odessey and Oracle, actually, because Chris and I, it was in the air. I mean, Colin and I never quite agree on this, but it was in the air that we might split up, because we were based so much in the UK and we were handled so badly in the UK that we'd only ever had one hit single over here, although around the world we had many more hits. But it was just, we thought, we can't, we've made so many demos that we like, that we have to try and produce an album ourselves. Didn't know if we could do it, but we thought at least we get our own ideas down of how the songs should sound. And it might not work, but we loved the experience. We had an absolute ball. And we loved the album when it was finished. But as we were completely based in the UK, the only guy that went out on a limb was Kenny Everett, actually. And I remember doing a couple of interviews with him, and he just loved it. But nobody else sort of mentioned it, and it just got lost. And we thought, okay, well, that's it. But at least we made something that we like.
Indeed, yeah. I was going to say quickly there, you mentioned Kenny Everett. There's a famous interview with yourselves with Kenny, and you talk about splitting up, and he says, "But the album's not even out yet. Why are you splitting up before the album's even released?"
Cat Stevens was on that program. I remember that well, that particular interview. And Kenny played A Rose for Emily, which is a very sort of wistful ballad on the album. And Cat Stevens said, "God, I love that song," And we thought, "Oh, that's lovely. It's really, really nice." But by that time, our guitarist was just about to get married. He said, "I've got no money." Because again, I know I keep coming back to this, but we were stiffed out of I mean, we'd had a couple of huge hit records in the States, headline tours, and we never made a penny out of live work. I mean, Chris and I were lucky because we actually had honest publishers, and that was really rare in those days. So everything that happened around the world was getting paid to us in terms of the writing fees. So we were fine. Chris and I were fine. But the rest of the guys, just didn't have any money. And that was one of the main reasons why we split up. It wasn't a falling out or anything like that.